Welcome back on our journey into the unknown. My name is Tim, the headmaster at the Academy of the Mental Arts, a life coaching academy with a curriculum that is based upon the hero's journey. So I'm really happy to have you here because today it is the second of 12 videos that I'll be releasing in a series based upon the curriculum. So this one is all about the second stage of the hero's journey, which is called the call to adventure. Now, last time we had talked about the ordinary world and how that affected the unrealized hero. The ordinary world, ordinary meaning a set order and non-phenomenal stagnation, status quo, comfort zone, is broken by this call to adventure briefly. Because the call to adventure is not necessarily answered in this stage, but it is made aware to the hero, the unrealized hero. So this call to adventure, it is a call towards growth, because remember, in the ordinary world, growth does not occur. So because of this, there is a subconscious pull that the unrealized hero, yourself, feels when stuck in a cycle of stagnation. And that cycle could involve, pleasures that make you feel comfortable that may not be healthy for you. So it could be addiction, depression, being controlled by fear, stuck in a cycle of anxiety. Stuff like this can really plague the unrealized hero so that they cannot grow. So the call to adventure doesn't always present itself in a positive way. It can occur through a rock bottom. A rock bottom happens when one is made aware of the fact that they're falling in what's called a bottomless pit, which is much like the ordinary world, a comfort zone, a vicious cycle to where it seems like it's never ending, it's the same old, same old. Addiction is a lot like this, depression is a lot like this, to where it feels like there's no hope. So it makes sense that the first principle, the first virtue to obtain, remember in the first video, to turn a principle into a virtue requires practice. You need to practice the principle of honesty to make mindfulness and radical awareness and honesty a virtue so that you can use it to realize the second principle. It is the second principle that starts the entire journey out of the ordinary world. And that second principle is called hope. So hope is also known as optimism. It is also the opposite energy of fear. Hope is saying that there is a chance that things can improve, things can get better, things can progress. And it may appear very, very subtly or very, very abruptly. It all depends on the different scenarios, just like we see different heroes and different stories told go through different journeys and have different calls to adventure in the way they show up. So a call to adventure can happen where radical honesty is made from a traumatic or tragic event, a tragedy. Because as soon as that happens and you hit a rock bottom, you find solid ground to stand upon, and that becomes your foundation. So this solid ground of awareness, of honesty, it may only be there briefly, but if you've done it right, you've established honesty as a virtue by practicing honest behaviors and honest thoughts, because that'll lead to a mindful awareness of your emotions. And you'll be able to recognize the borders of your ordinary world through the emotion of fear, because that's what keeps you in a comfort zone. It's the desire to feel comfortable. And as soon as you're out of that, it's not comfortable because it's not known to you. And that's why fear arises when you're in the unknown. So how are you going to grow, though, if you stay in the ordinary world? That is why we must open our eyes through mindfulness, open our ears so that we can hear the call to adventure when it does show up. Now, the call to adventure may be showing up to you in different ways. You could have gotten a new job opportunity. You could have gotten a random friend telling you that let's go on a trip. Or it could happen in a tragic way, let's say a divorce, a separation of your physical comforts. It can happen like that. And when it does, you know it because it'll rock you. And when it does, that is a blessing in disguise, because it is that rock bottom that will lead to you realizing that maybe there's something else out there, because I can't take this ordinary world anymore. So you are called to go out. And if you think about the word adventure, ad means to, venture means to go. So it is literally, in etymology, it has a lot to do with going on a perilous quest. A quest for growth, a quest to learn, a quest to be challenged, because you won't grow unless you're challenged. So this call to adventure, it can show up in a lot of different ways, like I said, but it is all about the hero realizing that this bottomless pit, as it's sometimes referred to, is ending that endless cycle of sensory, carnal comforts. So once you end this sensory, carnal comforts, you may just want to, because you're sick of it, and you're finally sick of these things, because they don't bring you everlasting peace. They don't bring you peace that lasts. It's temporary. Why are these physical things only bringing you temporary relief? Is because they are physical. They are not of a spiritual nature. Physical things are bound by time and by space, meaning that they're eventually going to run out, and there's only so much of it that can last. So you're always going to develop a need for more and more if you rely on these physical things. So that being said, I want you to think about what in your life is calling you to escape your ordinary world. And I could go way deeper into this, and in my classes that I teach, the next semester will be starting soon. So if you want to join, message me on here, either at Academy of the Mental Arts or at Tim from the Mitten on pretty much all socials. Then we can definitely get you in the next class. So the ordinary world isn't really escaped until you can recognize the patterns, the cognitive distortions that might be the patterns, and have the mindfulness to say, you know what, I can get away from this. Now, hope is the second principle that you must practice. So if you hang on to hope, you will see that there's optimism in a lot of different people, because you'll be able to honestly look at them and see how they turn their life around. So if you are going through a specific tragedy, then I encourage you to get around people that have been through a similar tragedy and ask them how they made it through, because there's plenty of people that have. And we can find hope by putting ourselves shoulder to shoulder around these people. So it's a perilous undertaking to answer the call to adventure. And that's what leads to the next stage, the third stage, which is called refusal of the call. So the refusal of the call, obviously, is fear. So we need a certain principle to overcome that. But we can't get to that principle, we can't make it a virtue without first getting honesty and hope. So thanks guys again. This is Tim from the Academy of the Mental Arts, and I want to thank you again for joining me for another video. I'll see you in the next one.